Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studio, it's time for Family Business Radio. Showcasing outstanding family businesses and the advisors who assist them.
Good afternoon. You're listening to an episode of Family Business Radio. I'm your host, Anthony Chen. Today, we have four amazing guests with us here today to share with us their stories and their journeys and in their professional careers and how they got started. So kicking us off with the show, we have Michael Miller with Embassy National Bank, or more known as everyone here affectionately, the Bowtie Banker. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate to be here.
So share with us a story as to what got you into banking, particularly commercial banking.
I grew up in an area back in Kansas City where it was more blue collar, and I saw a lot of the local businesses that they were actually being taken advantage of by some of the larger banks. So I decided I'm going to go to college, I'm going to get my finance degree, and then I'm going to end up be a commercial banker so that I could actually take care of the small businesses so that they could actually have the same advantages as big clients.
So based on kind of your observation, what is it, the difference that you bring in compared to, let's say, the bigger name banks?
The one thing is it's more personal service. Is like when I meet a business owner such as like yourself, I would come and get to know you as well as your business, because every business is truly unique. There's not, you could have the same kind of business. You could have a heating and cooling contractor. I can meet five of them. They all are different. Just like I meet five different people. They're all different on how, what kind of services or products that they may need, or what kind of referrals to other businesses they may need.
So take us through as to what it would look like working with you over a day, because when people think of bankers, they think of all bankers as being alike or clones of each other. What is it like working with a Bowtie Banker?
The thing with working with the Bowtie Banker is that I'm always trying to reach out and take care of my clients. That's why a lot of times I could be touching them once a month or even more, depending on what their needs are. It's very common. I have one client, she'll email me and she won't be on a Zoom call within 5 minutes. And I make that happen. Mm-hmm. It's just more of the services that I know that each client needs and wants to have, versus when, and I even worked in a larger bank, and it gets very impersonal. So when you're working with entrepreneurs and small business owners, it's a matter that I want to provide the best service possible so they feel that they're taken care of. And if we need to talk daily, we'll talk daily.
So stepping a little back and getting a bigger scope of what a banker does. For some business owners where they have minimal interaction with their bank, if they even know their bankers, they would go to a bank of, I just need a business account and let's say a business card or maybe a loan or something like that. What are other scopes that are valid that a banker like you would bring in when you have a closer, understandable relationship with the client?
When I'm working with a client, the thing is that there's going to be going behind the scenes. It could be a matter of if we're working on a loan for a client to expand their business, is actually working with the people at the bank on writing the presentation, trying to show the best picture of that business so the board knows what's going on. So I'm basically a storyteller. Mm-hmm. I'm still telling that business's story to everyone at our bank, so showing like, this is a good business, they're going to grow, this is going to be someone that we want to do business on the long term, because in the banking, we deal with relationships. It's not, we're not looking for a one piece of business with someone. We're looking for years upon years. We want to have that relationship for a whole career. That's what I work with.
So it almost sounds like instead of just sending in an application where it's just an AI or some underwriter behind the scenes just giving a thumb down or thumbs up, it sounds like there's a more in-person involved process through the loan.
There is. There's a lot of discussions going through this, because we want to take care of our client. If I feel like someone is a good customer, I'm going to fight for them to make sure they're taken care of. And one thing is nice is like when we're working with someone, sometimes I have to bring in other people within our bank just depends on if it's a different service, but I'm always available to our customer. They can call me, they can text me, they can email me. I'm always involved because I'm the first person that they're going to see. And I want to be always a person that they can always reach out to.
We touched a little bit about the advantages of why it's important to have someone like yourself understanding the story of the business owner and being able to share that with, let's say, the board or whomever is giving the final thumbs up or thumbs down for the loan qualification. What other instances or examples can you share as to, for our listeners, in a business world where they go, I already have a banker or let's say a business account. I don't know if I really have time, quote unquote, to spend time with a business banker. Can you share with us where additional value that can bring about, where it's not something immediate, but something that can actually realize long term?
Well, the value of a long-term relationship with a business banker such as myself is it's not always the product or service that I'm selling at the bank, is that the connections I have in the business community. Because a lot of times business owners will have that one thing, they'll keep them up in the middle of the night. They'll wake up 3:00 in the morning and they'll have heartburn about things that's stressing them out about their business. That's when I have the relationship with the business owner. They'll call me up and say, Mike, do you know a good accountant? I said, yeah, I know about 3 or 4 I can refer you to. I know these personally. They'll be good people, or it could be whatever other service to help their business. I like being a referral source or an advisor, like especially when it's not anything about banking. It's like I can help them and help their business. So I'm developing that rapport with them.
So it almost sounds like you're beyond just a bow tie banker giving loans and helping with their account. You're a connector of sorts.
Exactly.
So what other things for business owners they should also be keen about when working with a banker that they might not be realizing just because they're so stuck in their day-to-day operations? There could be other missed opportunities out there that they just aren't aware about until you come in.
Well, the thing you might want to they'll find out about is sometimes if they really push you off or they don't return your phone calls, that's the first key that you're at the wrong person. Someone like myself, if we're returning phone calls and we're talking to you and we are asking a lot of questions, that's the person you want to be involved with because they really want to know about you and your business. And that's what I key most of my career on, is getting to know both, because a lot of my clients, I know when their grandkids' birthdays are, when they just had another grandchild. Getting really in deep, it cannot be that deep, but also just knowing the business and asking about them, being curious, saying, I want to come out and see your business when I can come out there and have coffee with you, showing an interest.
And getting to that, actually visiting the physical place of business. I think if I remember, there was a particular story you shared. Can you share with our listener as to how that mysterious valley that accidentally you chanced upon that the client wasn't even aware about? When
I visit my clients, a lot of times I have these are scheduled visits, or when I have one client, he's 5 minutes away from my house. Oh, so he knows, hey, Mike, can we meet tomorrow morning? I'm like, sure. What time? I say, all right. He says, I'll have coffee waiting for you. But he's a long-term client, but it's just showing like, I want to see your business because I want to see how you run your operation too. I'm just curious about everybody's business, just how things look, how you operate, what you're doing, no matter what industry it is.
So for our listeners that are perhaps maybe not getting callbacks from their banks or just not getting the level of service they're really desiring, how could they interview, or of course, other than reaching out to you, but if they're not in, let's say, in Georgia, how would you guide them? Okay, here's something you should look for in a good professional commercial banker.
I'm going to push towards community banks. First off, because a lot of times what you're going to get there, you're going to get highly experienced bankers that work, because a lot of us have worked at larger banks. So you're going to get a high level of expertise and knowledge in your banker, and as well as a high level of service. So that's the first thing I would always say. There's very few occasions where I will say you should really go to the large national chains. There's so many local banks, and they're out there for benefit for you. They're in the community. They know the community. If you're trying to get a loan for your business to expand it, they know what's going on in the community. They're there to help you out, and they'll do everything they can. A lot of times for larger banks, you're going to have to fit into a very tight, let's say, box to have an approval. The local banks, we're trying to make things happen.
So of your experiences working as a banker, particularly helping with blue collar business, what particular client story do you have in mind or experience that you realize, I'm in the right spot?
It was when I was working with a machine shop up in North Georgia.
Oh, wow.
And we had a loan with him for his original location up in Lafayette. Mm-hmm. And then he started saying, I have another location I wish to purchase. I was like, okay, we can help you with that. And he made a phone call to me at 5:30 on a Friday afternoon. He didn't expect me to call him till next week. I called him within 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. So it's just things like that. It's just where I'm shocking people because I'm turning things around. I'm responding so quickly.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to exceed their expectations.
Mm-hmm. I suppose you probably don't want to make this a habit, but if someone actually calls you at 5:15, 5:30 on a Friday afternoon, they can more or less expect some kind of plan.
Yeah. If you really love doing what you do, like I love doing banking, that if you have one of your clients calling you in the evening or send you a text message, you respond. Mm-hmm. It doesn't take that much time. It means so much to your client.
Mm-hmm. So what you're trying to share with the audience is that your banking hours don't exactly stop at 5.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So then for our listeners who are listening to all this and a banker that responds and actually opens a little later, how can they best find you and get that level of service?
You can find me easiest, but you can call my office. My direct dial number is 770-500-1270.
All right. Great. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
All right. So our next guest, we have Adam Sims with Georgia Freedom Fencing.
Freedom Fencing of Georgia, yes.
Oh, Freedom Fencing of Georgia. Got that mixed around. My apologies. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Great. So share with us your origin stories as to what got you into the business of fencing.
Yes. A few years ago, I was working 2 jobs at the fire department. I still work one. My wife had just finished battling cancer, and so we were doing everything we could to cover those costs. She finished the battle. She succeeded. And that kind of opened things back up again. At the same time, I realized that I was never home, working 48 hours on, 24 hours off. Mm-hmm. I was only home every 3rd day. So was trying to replace that second income. I've got a history in construction. And so fencing was just the option that opened up first. So that's where it all started. Fortunately, it's changed and grown since then. So. Mm-hmm. It's been interesting times.
Yeah. So share with our audience, you mentioned Freedom Fencing of Georgia, and I was initially introduced this term called no-dig fencing, or this technology. Share with us, what is no-dig fencing? Because when I first started, I was like, wait, how would you install a fence if you don't dig?
So that's where things started changing pretty quickly in the fence industry as a whole. No-dig is where we drive our fence posts. It's been a thing they've done for decades up north in Canada and North America, where in the agricultural fencing side, they'll drive their posts. They've got frost heave from the ground freezing that will lift the post up. So driving the post in lets them go deeper, and it doesn't have as much surface area for them to raise the post. Mm-hmm. It's been something that's been then dabbled with in the residential field that we work in, but they finally came out with a solution for aluminum fence for a no-dig solution, which was like the missing piece to the puzzle. Mm-hmm. And as soon as we got word of that, we started looking into it. And we were actually the first ones outside of the guy who owns the patent on that process to get on board and installing it here in the country. And then in Georgia, we led the way. So since then, we now have a way to do no dig, is what we call it. We drive our post for wood, vinyl, aluminum, and we can drive our steel fences as well. Mm-hmm. So in wood, for example, we've gotten away from the wood 4x4 posts because they're not lasting like they used to. If you drive around, you'll see they're all warped and twisted and curling in every direction. Mm-hmm. So we drive a galvanized steel post into the ground and then dress it with wood so it looks like a traditional post and a traditional fence, but it now has a lifetime warranty that the post will never rot, twist, crack. It takes all those problems away, but still gives you a traditional fence.
Yeah. You mentioned on some of the fencing and the post itself bending or warping over time. Has it just been exclusively just a regular wood product, or has it just been more so of the quality of the fencing nowadays are starting to fall?
So the wood itself, the way that they're treating it versus 20, 30 years ago, it's different treatments with the EPA and all that's involved. So the chemicals that they use, we're a very pressure treated pine is our number one product down here. Cedar is something that has to be brought in. So pressure treated pine is what we do 90% of. And in that treatment, they treat the wood, they infuse the treatment into the wood. And as it dries out, it starts to move. And so they're harvesting the wood quicker, younger, less wood grains in it. So it has a lot more properties that cause it to move and twist versus the wood that was used 20, 30 years ago. So it's just the quality of product, the way it was treated now versus then, all that adds up to pressure treated wood is going to move a good bit. So the main issue was in the post. It would rot faster. We only had fences lasting about 8 to 10 years.
Oh.
So we were noticing that fences were being replaced a lot quicker. They weren't looking as good. And I frankly got tired of installing fences that I knew were not going to be a quality product. No matter what we did, we couldn't resolve that problem, right? And so we found this no-dig provided a solution to that and made it a stronger, longer-lasting fence that the posts come with a lifetime warranty. So that's where all the work and the cost is in the post itself.
Yeah. So as you were initially going into construction and installing these fences, was it because of you knowing the background of the quality that brought you to the road of exploring an alternative, or was it just a chance circumstance that you ran into this?
It was definitely getting back into construction again and noticing the difference in the material and the quality of the material that was available. And then COVID came in there with supply chain issues and all as well. So you mix all that together and naturally if you have a problem, you're going to find a solution. And looking for better solutions for our clients to provide a better product. We came across what we use now is called a Postmaster Plus post for wood, but trying to figure out how to apply that. The cost of the steel post was much higher than the wood post, but it had the right properties, and then finding out that balance and cost of the material. And then the no-dig started to show itself. And so the more we researched it, we can install it faster. So it lowered our labor rates, which then offset the additional cost of the material. So it kind of all worked out.
Yeah. So for our listeners to understand it more, is that because of technology, you would spend less time with actually installing or paying for labor with a higher quality of the actual materials itself.
Correct. So we now, instead of digging holes and putting the post in and filling it back with concrete, making a big mess, we have a gas-powered driver that sits on top of our steel post and essentially takes a hammer and just hammers it down into the ground straight. So we go 3 to 4 feet in, depending on the type of post and fence that we're installing. And then that gives us, with our red clay, we've got plenty of strength. We'll destroy the post trying to get back out versus a wood post that eventually the wood post is as strong as it will ever be the day we install it. Every day after that wood post will start to decay and rot and lose its strength. With the steel post, we drive it straight in the ground. It's galvanized, so it's protected. It's not going to rust, and it's got a lifetime warranty that comes from the manufacturer.
Just so for me and the listeners to understand, when you talk about lifetime warranties, if there's any impurity or some, let's say, damage to the actual post itself, they would just come in and fully replace that section.
So again, all the cost is in the labor of the post.
Yeah.
If that post were to fail prematurely for whatever reason, we can very easily come in, remove that post, drive another one right in its place. We can also do repairs with existing fences where posts are rotting. We can come in and either support the fence at that rotten post to prevent them from having to replace the entire fence at that time if they can't do that financially at the moment. We can brace and support the fence with our steel post until they get to a time that they can afford to replace the fence. But if that post were to fail, the one that we drive in was for whatever reason, manufacturer defect, we can very easily come in and replace that and drive it again, because it's a very small footprint that we're working with that we have once it's installed.
Yeah. So can you share the quick story, because just before the show, you talked about on one of the projects as to why can be a difference for properties where their spacing can be very unforgiving.
So that was a fence that was being installed for a pool that had been installed. The pool was raised elevation, so it had a retaining wall along the edge. What we were provided was about 12 inches between the pool deck, the concrete pool deck, and the retaining wall to install this fence in. Inside that 12 inches was a 4-inch drainage pipe used to get water out. So now we're down to just a few inches on each side. And again, this was an aluminum fence, so we would drive an aluminum I-beam into the ground. That's a 2-inch diameter. And so I just needed 2 inches to get my post in where it needed. By the time we were done, we just removed a little bit of gravel that was in place between the retaining wall and the pool deck, drove our post in, put our aluminum in next, and it looked like the fence was there prior to the pool.
Mm-hmm.
So no mess, no dirt. All the rock got put back. We kept everything clean, and they were swimming in their pool the next day.
Yeah, I'm thinking if they would actually have to do a digging, I don't even know if logistically they would be able to pull that off.
If they were digging, they would either have to put the fence on the pool deck itself.
Oh.
It was a block retaining wall, so we don't recommend attaching to the top of block retaining walls. So they'd have to expand the perimeter. They'd have to find another solution, most likely. But doing what we do, we can just put it right where they wanted it.
Yeah. So other than, of course, where a particular property may have very narrow, unforgiving leeway that you have to work with, it also sounds like if they want someone to just come in and just get the job done in, let's say, maybe even a day, because for certain projects it could take more than a day. What is your, I would say, average work time from start of the project in the morning to like how long?
Yeah, that's one of the problems we had when we started the no-dig process, was that we were building fence too fast.
Oh.
Because we would typically take a couple of days to build a fence. We were doing it half a day to a day, where it might take us 2 days. We now have to sell more fence to keep our guys busy. So it was a kind of unforeseen good problem to have. Right? Yeah, we can, because we're not digging holes and making messes and all the cleanup, that installation, again, is so much quicker, being able to just drive it in, that our labor then gets much less, and so we can install much faster.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, if we can now do up to 300 feet a day, where before we might get 200 foot, depending on the technicalities of the fence.
Yeah. Well, I imagine the homeowners must be happy because you're not having a massive mess and multiple days where they can't exactly use the property.
Yeah, we had one client, a commercial client, that they were wanting to put a dog run in for their employees. They're a great place to work. It seemed like they really took care of their people, but they were concerned about maintaining that space inside the dog run with mulch and whatnot. And with our aluminum fence, you can very easily just take a few screws out, remove a section. So now you have a 6-foot opening to get any equipment in. If you have future landscape issues, traditionally that aluminum fence is installed with the post panel. Everything's set in concrete. It's not coming back out. It's kind of pressure fit together. With our system, we drive our I-post in, we sleeve our aluminum post over, we add our panels. So if you had to do any maintenance in the landscaping or in the yard, or if you wanted to add a pool later on, it's just removing those set screws, taking the post and the panels out, do your work, and it all goes right back together again. In fact, that client that we installed the fence on top of the retaining wall for the pool, he actually had a tree fall and take out one of his sections. Oh. And he was able to repair it before we could even get out there a couple of days later himself.
Wow.
He just took it upon himself and fixed it himself. It was that simple and that easy for him to do. So
it sounds like it's something you've got a lifetime warranty, more or less. You don't have to worry about rot, whereas wooden fencing, you have to worry about not just the rot, but also staining, maintaining and cleaning the particular fence. It doesn't sound like that's even unnecessary maintenance here for this system, is there?
That is for the wood fences, because we're only doing the posts, so you still have the wood rails and pickets.
Okay.
But those are not in the ground. Most fences fail in the first 2 to 3 inches. The post will rot where all the microbes and the oxygen and water is at, and it's attacking that post. So if you can replace that problem, then your fence should last, if you keep it stained and maintained properly. And we use an oil-based stain that is a penetrating stain that you can reapply and maintain very easily. There's no reason why the fence should not last a lifetime as a whole. Not just the post itself, but the whole system.
Yeah.
So
And as I'm learning more about your business, you mentioned about you use the word we, or maintain or having a stain. I'm assuming it comes pre-stained, where then the owner or the business or the residential owner doesn't have to worry about, at least for the first installment.
Right. So we've got a couple of options. We have a pre-stained cedar product that we can bring in. Mm-hmm. It comes in the color of chestnut, which we did install not long ago, and it was beautiful. Mm-hmm. Or if you don't want that color particularly, like today, I was in Peachtree Corners pre-staining a fence ourselves. Mm-hmm. It happened to be chestnut again, but it instead is a different variety of cedar that they requested. Mm-hmm. And so we can now come in and pre-stain your fence before we ever put it up. Mm-hmm. And so one of the benefits of that is, one, it's a finished product once it's installed. And two, you're staining what we say all 6 sides of the board or the picket. So the top, bottom, front, back, and 2 sides. Mm-hmm. If we were to install that fence picket after the fact, then you can only access the one side, and you're not getting where the pickets are connected to the 2x4s and so on. That is not being stained and not being protected as much. Mm-hmm. So with us pre-staining it, we're staining the entire, all 6 sides of each piece of material, and it goes up as a finished product. Mm-hmm. No overspray. You don't have to worry about overspray of the stain getting on cars or houses, or much cleaner. Mm-hmm. And it's just one and done.
It sounds like you want to make it as easy as possible for the homeowner and not lift a finger if they don't have to.
That's right. Yeah. We want to get it taken care of. Mm-hmm. And when it's done, just let us know. We'll come back in a couple of years, clean it and stain it again as a maintenance coat. Mm-hmm. But beyond that, you don't have to schedule multiple appointments is the plan to make it as a seamless process as possible.
In terms of the system with the posting and kind of insert, or especially if there's large landscaping projects in the future, it almost sounds like, at least in my mind, it's almost like you're creating a block of Legos for the client. And if they want to go in and make some changes themselves, they can just, whatever the pieces they have with the posts, they can just install and shift whatever fencing they want.
So we have another client in Roswell here where we're at currently. Mm-hmm. They had their fence installed originally for their pool, and they had it installed up close to the pool deck that they requested. And then after a while, they had a few parties and get-togethers, and they said it felt a little cramped. Mm-hmm. So now we can come back and take that aluminum fence out of the ground, move it back to the perimeter that they now established using the same material, other than a couple of sections to expand that length and put it all right back together again. They're not paying for more material. They're just basically paying for the labor to have that fence moved.
Oh, that's even better than I thought. Okay. For our listeners that are listening this whole thing for the first time, how can they find out more about it and reach out to you?
Yeah, so we have our website, www.freedomfencingofga.com. Mm-hmm. We've got some good content videos from that kind of better explain and see what we're doing. You can give us a call at 470-227-0762. And then we're also on Facebook at freedomfencingofga.com as well.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Now for our next guest, more known affectionately as the Odd Couple with Emergency Roofing Services, we have Chris and Terry. So we'll start off with Chris and his origin story. So Chris, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. I'm grateful to be here. Yeah, so basically my background was in marketing and sales. Going to school, I got an associate's in business admin. Mm-hmm. When I was in college from undergrad at University of North Georgia. So I'm local. I grew up here in Alpharetta since 2000. So I went to school at Chattahoochee High School right down the street. Went to college, Georgia State. Then I went to University of North Georgia for my undergrad. Then when I was in college, I was working at a boat repair shop on Lake Lanier. So we were doing boat maintenance, boat repairs, and the shop kept getting phone calls for dock repair. Like people kept calling, "Can you fix our dock?" So me and the owner of the boat repair shop ended up buying a workboat, getting insurance, getting a crew together, and then I was running a dock repair for 4 years while I was in college. So I was in charge of the whole business. I was the sole proprietor of it. I managed finance, accounting, marketing. I was doing the actual installs, decking, welding, restaining, refloating docks. Mm-hmm. So I ended up running that for 3.5 years. And then the way I got into roofing was a buddy of mine was moving down from another state, opening up a roofing company. And he came out to the lake one weekend to hang out. He came an hour early. I had an estimate to go give while I was going before we went out and laid out on the boat all day. Yeah. So he watched me interact with that client and the homeowner, and he was like, "Man, you would be great in roofing. Like, I need your help. Come work with me." So I pondered on that for a few months. I was outgrowing the lake. I was looking for another opportunity, and so I ended up calling him up 6 months later, and that's how I got introduced to roofing. Ended up growing that company for 2 years. Mm-hmm. They recently just got sold and got rid of it, and so after that transition, I was looking around interviewing roofing companies. I'm like, okay, where am I going to plant my next seed? Who can I help the next? Mm-hmm. And then I interviewed 9 different roofing companies around the Alpharetta area, seeing which one was the best fit, and that's when I came across Emergency Roofing Solutions. Mm-hmm. They were checking all the boxes, honest, transparent, even for back end, like coming from a rep. Like when I'm looking at their books, can I see the numbers, or like how is there anything being hidden or not being? Are they not telling anyone anything? Yeah. So I'm doing my due diligence before I decide who to partner with, and so that's where I landed with Emergency Roofing Solutions.
Great, thank you. Now we have Terry. Terry, how did Chris get you into roofing?
That's a funny story. I was very happy doing yoga, being semi-retired and living very comfortably. And it's a year ago spring, I'm out in the backyard and doing some simple gardening. And I looked and I saw shingles in the garden. And I said, this is not a good thing. Yep. And looking up, I realized I got a problem. And very simple, I'll just call a couple of roofers, get an estimate, and life will be fine. During this journey, I found lots of information about lots of different people. And it's an industry, believe it or not, you don't have to be licensed to be a roofer in this state. So I could go get my hair colored. She needs a license. I want my nails done. She needs to be licensed. So it was interesting to find that it was not required. Oh. And I found that while I was interviewing people. And so that cut out some of the people. And I went through also a litany of different roofing companies. And I couldn't get a straight answer. Some was, oh, little darling, I'm here to take good care of you, to, no, I only take half the cash up front now. And it took me a while. And then a friend of mine happened to recommend, and he's a commercial realtor, and I asked him, who do you use and where should I go? And he said, try Chris. Good guy. I used him in the past. I called up Chris, poor Chris, and brought him to my house. I had all these estimates laid out on the desk. And what can you do better than any of these guys? Mm-hmm. Chris sat with me patiently. Patience of steel, I probably have to add. Probably sat with me for about 4 or 5 hours, trying to convince me why I should allow them to do my roof. Mm-hmm. And he, again, checked off all the boxes, and I said, okay. Roof came out spectacular. I was as happy as can be. They cleaned up everything they said they were going to do. They did. They gave me a great warranty. My roof looks great, and I'm happy as can be. And he asked, can you help me in your neighborhood? I live in a townhouse subdivision. Talk to some of your neighbors, and if you could get me a referral, that would be great. Mm-hmm. I went and talked to my neighbors. I'm not known to be shy, and we ended up with 22 or 23 roofs. We might be up to 24 at this point that have all gotten new roofs because, number one, the roofs were old. Number two, they were damaged. There was a storm that did come through. Oh. And next thing I knew, the big boss called and said, can you come in? And there was Chris, and there was this big boss, and he said, can you come in? We'd like to talk to you. And I said, sure. I figured I must have done something wrong. And needless to say, you need to come and work with us. Yeah. You have no problem talking to people. And that came from my previous background. I lived in the world of corporate pharmaceuticals, and I was a director of national sales. So I crisscrossed across the country, meeting and building relationships with a lot of people. And that was something that I love doing. And what better way than to build relationships with my neighbors and my community? So Chris and I decided, let's go and partner up and change the image of what some of these roofers look like. I think a lot of people's worst nightmare is big guys pounding on their doors. Let me in. I want to sell you a roof. And we wanted to change that image. We started doing our networking. We started working with professionals. We work with our realtors. We work with our insurance agents. We work with bankers, mortgage companies, and helping the community solve the problem of what's wrong with their roof. Not every roof needs to be replaced, but when it does, you want somebody that is going to take care of your most valuable asset. And I think we'll all agree, most people's homes are a very large asset. And if it's something that you have to take care of and maintain, you change the oil in your car, you rotate the tires, everything else in your home, have somebody come out and take a look at it once that roof gets to be about 10 years old. And you'll be surprised. And what we offer is a solution to whatever problem it is, giving people a sense of security, not worrying about it for an unlimited length of time, and feeling comfortable in their own home. Safety and being and feeling good is a very important thing, and that's what makes a house a home. And so we help them find the solutions that they need, whatever it might be a top, a repair, or a replacement, to give people that security back again. So it's been a fun journey, and I have to say, working with Chris, we are the odd couple. People ask, how'd you two guys find each other? I said, some people have a work wife. He got a work mother.
So then of that 3 or 4 hour grilling on Chris, what was the things that stood out to you that said, yeah, he's the guy I'm going to do my roof with?
The transparency, the honesty, the ethics. My business was monitored by the FDA and drug communities and everything else. So you had to learn what was the truth and don't exaggerate it. Tell me what you can do. And he was as honest, as upfront as can be, loved the ethics, and the same thing followed through from the company as well. And that's why I chose him. He didn't give me baloney stories. He said, this is what it's going to be. And I really appreciated the honesty, being upfront, and it could have been a no, but it's the same thing. Ethics came into play, and that was what was important to me, and that's what sold me.
Well, thank you. So, Chris, as you were interviewing, you shared a little bit of your origin looking for a particular roofing company. What made them stand out to you?
Yeah, in the roofing industry, there's a lot of discrepancies between companies, how the organization is ran and managed. Some people are a one-man band out of their house. Some people have a big outfit, large outfit with 10 vehicles, large overhead expenses. So I was just weighing out all the different position, large sizes of companies, the way they were representing themselves. And I wanted to work and, have a company match my ethics and what I focus on and what I believe is the best fit and the way a business is run and the one I want to represent. So that's when I took some time, found the Emergency Roofing Solutions, and after several conversations, I decided to partner with them.
So for our listeners that are listening in, they go, oh, so a construction company or any contract or roofing company being upfront and transparent. What is this? So share with the audience, what is something that someone who's listening, maybe they haven't had a roofing experience before, but what are some top 3 questions or things they should look for that you would recommend?
Being licensed is probably the most important thing. Having good reviews from their own community is important. Meeting the people and listening to what their values are and if they line up with you as well. Not everything comes down to the lowest price all the time. And sometimes you get what you pay for. You want to be fair. We're not the cheapest. We're definitely not the most expensive, but we're probably we pride ourselves in being most upfront and honest and delivering what we promise.
Yeah, can you be a little bit more elaborate on your question?
Yeah, so for someone that's listening and they haven't gone through the experience yet in terms of interviewing or looking for a roofer, what should be 3 questions or things they should look for in a roofer to know that they are a legitimate or good company, other than, of course, yourselves?
Certainly, yeah.
Let's say, for example, they're like, let's say, I don't know, in Alaska or somewhere. They can't. I assume you're not going to fly all the way to Alaska.
No, I'll probably try to phone a friend, find someone to call. Yeah, so answer for a residential or a commercial property owner looking for a contractor or someone to perform work on their property, I always recommend three estimates. You want to look at the quality of the products, what materials are being used. You can't always see the labor costs, but if you can gauge and understand what products what they're purchasing and what is being installed on your house, you want to compare apples to apples, same brands, same product class. Okay, you know what to expect in price. Then you want to check their credentials on reviews, all the different platforms online, feedback. You want feedback. Even if you see a review, reach out to that person or go drive by their house, see the quality of work. 6 months, a year later, however long later, to those homeowners. Find someone who's used them before and actually have a conversation with them. And then, so that's mostly what I'd recommend is just reading up, following up, check the BBB. I have a lot of friends who work in a lot of different companies, a lot of different roofing owners. So I have a good idea of what to look for and what not to look for in a roofing company.
Okay.
Yeah. So I refer, even if I need to, I'll refer another roofing company just for a second opinion.
So as you work on this theme of building that relationship, that trust, being transparent, and also finding quality, what is, for someone that doesn't know much about roofing itself, what is something in terms of quality that you would more or less kind of harp on for the client to understand, hey, you might pay a little bit more here, but here's that level of difference between material X and material Y. Is there such a thing in the roofing world?
Yeah, certainly there is. So being as a homeowner, unless you have multiple properties, you're only replacing your roof hopefully once in 20 years, 15 to 25 years, depending on what product you put on your roof, a little longer for a specialty product. But I'm a steep slope expert here. Where I'm talking about is mostly residential roofing. I have a pitch to the roof where you're using a different class of material. I'm just going to discuss laminated asphalt shingles. I'll keep it simple to that class of product. On asphalt roofing, you have a 3-tab shingle and an architectural shingle, 2 different classes, 2 different products. Both the basic shingle, there's over 7 components to a roof itself, but just the shingles is 1 component. And those can vary. There's 3 or 4 different classes of shingles that you can purchase. The main brands are Owens Corning, Atlas, GAF. So you want to look, those are the big 3. There's a couple others that are up there as well, but those are the main 3 product companies that produce shingles, asphalt shingles, that are being used on majority of the homes here in Georgia. Those are the materials. 3-tab is the base builder grade model. It's a 1 layer, so it's only 1 sheet of asphalt shingle. Architectural is a double laminate, so there's 2 layers of shingle on 1 tab on 1 sheet. So that's the stronger. The 3 tabs are rated for 60 mile an hour winds, and the architecturals are rated for 130. So it's double the strength.
So particularly for people who are in windy areas, you might want to lean a little bit more on a double architectural.
Yeah, no, on any of my clients, I automatically upgrade them. If they have a 3-tab before, I have only installed 1 3-tab roof in the last 3 years. I always give them the architectural. I'm not charging a whole lot to upgrade. It's only a couple $100 difference in the price of materials per house. So even if they're not wanting to pay for it, I'm like, I still want to, I don't want to stand behind a 3-tab shingle, so I'm just giving that upgrade away.
Shows of wanting to stand by your workmanship and the quality you want to be able to deliver for the clients. What else should someone that is not in the know in the roofing world that they should be aware about looking at their house? They're like, they mentioned about getting inspection, or let's say a roof that's 15 plus years old. What should be signs that they should be looking for? So some signs. After 10 years, there's a few components on the roof that will dry rot or just lose their adhesiveness over time. Like anywhere there's flashing and pipe boots, those are the first 2 places to leak. Anywhere flashing could be a chimney, it could be where siding connects to the roof or touches the roof. And then the pipe boots go around any PVC pipes that come
protrude through the roof. So they're basically like rubber gaskets that go around that PVC pipe from your from a vent or from just anywhere there's exhaust coming from. So those pipe boots can crack and dry rot over time. So after about 10 years, I was just on a roof today doing an inspection, and he had 5 pipe boots, and all 5 of them had massive holes in the pipe boot. So I knew water was coming in, and it's a simple fix. It just takes some time to just remove that pipe boot, slide it off the pipe, replace it with a new one, replace the surrounding shingles, and then it's sealed back.
So it's not like you're going to try to upsell them on replacing the whole roof. You just, this little small repair is more than sufficient.
Of course, yeah. Of course, there's several factors I take in before I suggest a full replacement. The age, the pliability, if I repair that pipe boot and the shingles all become damaged, when I remove one shingle, we're careful when we install these shingles. We're not trying to, hurt the roof. We want to fix it, make a tight seal. So if there's obviously after we do a repair, if we see there's an issue sealing it, let's say if it's a 20-year-old roof, it's really hard to put that seal back and to really stand behind a 10-year warranty or it's hard to warranty a roof that's 20 years old because that's on average the lifespan is 20 years. So anytime you perform repairs to a roof that's older than 20 years, it's more of a risk to leak in the future. Just because the shingles may never seal properly.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you for sharing your story and your insights. So for those who have kind of looking at the roof, scratching their head and not even sure how they can go about, but now they know at least there's one company out there that is very transparent in the way that you work and standing behind your workmanship, how can they best find The Odd Couple?
Best way to find The Odd Couple, we're on social media. We are The Odd Couple. Chris does a great job putting together some reels, and they're fun and entertaining and informative. We are available. You could reach us day and night, and we'll take those calls at 5:30 in the afternoon as well.
On a Friday?
On a Friday. Okay. I'm Terry, and my number where I could be reached is 954-242-6635. We're also can be reached at emergencyroofing.solutions.com. And Chris is at...
Our Instagram handle is The Odd Couple Official. The Odd Couple Roofing Specialist is how you can find us on social media. My phone number is 678-906-0458.
Great. Thank you for sharing.
And we are the duo out there, and we're definitely the odd couple. We cross all demographics, and we love what we're doing. We laugh every day. We enjoy, this is our business, and we love it.
Great. Thank you. So listeners, you can hear an ongoing theme with our 3 different businesses and 4 amazing guests. It all revolves around transparency, being able to stand behind your work and the values that you get to deliver to your clients beyond just the end product, but also being the connector of all things. So for the universal questions that we would like to bring our guests back on the later end of the show here to give our guests some time, the question will be, if you were to turn back hands of time and go back to day one when you initially started in your business, whether it is in banking or going to fencing or roofing, what advice would you give to that younger part of yourself in terms of starting out, so that our listeners here that are also on the fence or not on the fence or looking to get off the fence to start their own business and have their own insight of, okay, here's something that they've learned that they would have done differently. And this is something I should probably take it upon myself. So the question is, if you were to give your advice to your younger self, so our listeners who are on the fence, haven't taken that step yet of entrepreneurship, but at least get some insights from you. So now it's for the legalese portion of the show. This show is sponsored and brought to yours truly by Anthony Chen, myself, Lighthouse Financial Network, securities and advisory services offered through Osaic member FINRA SIPC. Osaic is separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Osaic. Our main office address is at 575 Broad Hollow Road in Melville, New York, 11747. You can best reach me at my number here is 631-465-9090. Extension is 5075, or my email, which is just my full name, Anthony Chen, CHEN, there's no dot in between, at lfnllc.com, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Just my full name, Anthony Chen. Probably the only guy with glasses and a gray suit with a Lighthouse Financial logo up there. So just look out for that. So to bring our 3 guests back, again, the question is revolving around, if you were to turn back the hands of time, back to the first day on the job, what advice would you give to yourself? Mike?
I would always say, take the risk. So always after going back 30 years, being in the working world, is go take the risk, but also do your due diligence. Mm-hmm. Check things out, make sure it's a good, don't just jump at something, but don't avoid risk just to play safe. Mm-hmm. I would tell myself that one immediately, but it's like, you have to make sure it's the right risk to take. Mm-hmm. No matter if it's yourself or if you're trying to start your new business. You need to do the due diligence is key.
Great, thank you, Adam.
Yeah, I think a similar notion is be willing to accept changes, because when we started, it was traditional dig and set, and then when the no dig showed up, it revamped the whole industry as a whole. And being on the front lines of that, we took a chance, invested in equipment to be able to provide that option, and it's been amazing for us. But being willing, there's a lot of guys that are traditional and don't want to accept the change. Yeah. And so be willing to accept change and look into new concepts and applications.
Thank you.
Go in thinking that you don't know it all, and there's a lot to learn from a lot of people. Listen, be patient with yourself. It doesn't happen overnight, and put the time and work in, and keep your values and share them.
Great. Closing us out, Chris?
Yeah, if I could talk to myself when I was first starting my first business, I would tell him to not reinvent the wheel. I wasted a lot of time thinking about how to make something different, and it would halt me from even getting started. I would freeze up and just I'd be stuck on brainstorming. I would never take action. So the other point is to have faith. When I first became a business owner, I was never before introduced to just being commission only. But if you want to be a business owner, it's commission only. So whether you're a sales rep or a business owner, if you're not having the job, you're not going to have a paycheck. So it's a fundamental. It's being consistent, having faith, and showing up, doing your part, and the universe will provide.
Thank you. And then closing out again for all of our guests to share for our listeners how they can best find you. Mike?
You can reach me at 770-500-1270, or you can also find me on LinkedIn. If you look at Michael Miller and you see my banner, it says ATL, you found the right person.
Great. Adam?
Yeah, I'd say probably Facebook, Freedom Fencing of GA. You can find us there.
Terry?
Facebook. We're on Facebook. I can be reached at 954-242-6635. Call the Better Business Bureau. Call Emergency Roofing Solutions.
Great. And Chris?
Again, our Instagram and Facebook is The Odd Couple Official and The Odd Couple Roofing Specialists.
Great. Thank you. Now for closing out the show, here's a little bit called Anthony's Financial Take from today's show of themes all about building values, sticking true to your values, and standing behind your professionalism and workmanship. So the financial take for today is, as you're going through your journey, whether it's taking that potential risk of, should I start my own business? How is that going to look like for me financially? Should I stay in my quote unquote safe or conservative 9-to-5 job? That's really something that only you would be able to find the right answers to. But instead of sticking kind of what Chris mentioned, going analysis by paralysis, or I think the other way around, I'm also very much guilty of that, where I just have spreadsheets on spreadsheets, and it's like, you know what? Why don't you just take Michael's advice here and just do enough due diligence where I know I'm not jumping off a cliff and that I'm going with a glider or a parachute. Make smart risk-taking decisions and don't think that you know it all. Reach out to people, reach out to other professionals. And as Chris mentioned in terms of his example, as he's interviewing other roofing companies, also look at their end product. So in your situation, when you're looking to establishing your own financial future, establishing your own business, look upon your peers. They're not just competition, because we've all been through this. We've gone through the growing pains, and more likely than not, the business community is pretty friendly. Say, hey, I went through this. You don't need to reinvent the wheel here. Here's the things that you should avoid because I went through that. So reach out to your peers, find some mentors, connect with them, and really, that's all I've got. And thank you for listening to Family Business Radio.